Hello, I am Lahav again. In this second series of videos, I would like to examine another important philosophical text on the topic of self-transformation, but from a very different angle. The text is by Bergson, a French philosopher who was extremely popular at the beginning of the 20th century. In fact, he received the Nobel Prize for Literature. The passage that I chose is from his first book, Time and Free Will, which was published in 1889. In this book, Bergson makes a distinction between two very different aspects of our inner life: the external surface of our mental life and the inner hidden depth, the fragmented and fixed versus the flowing, the mechanical versus the living. Usually, we live on the external mechanical surface. But sometimes, in special moments, for example, when we have to make an important decision, something different may happen in us. And then, but let us listen to Bergson's own words.
When we feel a deep feeling, we feel 1,000 different elements which dissolve into one another without any precise outlines. An idea which is truly ours fills the whole of ourself. But not all our ideas merge into the flow of our conscious states. Many float on the surface, like dead leaves on the water of a pond. Among these are the ideas which we receive ready-made, and which remain in us without ever being properly assimilated into us. The self develops a kind of surface, and on this surface, independent growths may form and float. Here will be found, within the fundamental self, a parasitic self, which continually encroaches upon the other. Many live this kind of life and die without having known true freedom. When our most trustworthy friends advise us to take some important step, the sentiments which they utter with so much insistence remain on the surface of our ego, and there get solidified. Little by little they will form a thick crust which will cover up our own sentiments. But then, at the very minute when we are about to perform the act, something may revolt against it. It is the deep self rushing up to the surface. It is the outer crust bursting, suddenly giving way to an irresistible thrust. Hence, in the depths of the self, below these most reasonable thoughts about reasonable pieces of advice, something else was going on. A gradual heating and a sudden boiling over of feelings and ideas, not unperceived, but rather unnoticed. We wish to know the reason why we have made up our mind, and we find that we have decided without any reason, and perhaps against every reason. But in certain cases, that is the best of reasons, because the action we had performed does not express some superficial idea, almost external to ourselves, distinct and easy to account for. Rather, it agrees with the whole of our most intimate feelings, thoughts, and aspirations. it agrees with that particular conception of life which is the equivalent of all our past experience. In a word, with our personal idea of happiness and of integrity.